She didn't catch her husband cheating. She didn't find suspicious texts. There was no mistress, no proof of betrayal. But because of one loyalty test, she ended up destroying the marriage she once believed was the most perfect one in all of Los Angeles. In Los Angeles, where people show off their lives on Instagram more than they do in real life, Madison Reed and Noah Carter were the couple everyone envied. Madison was a famous hot mom influencer in Beverly Hills. Her Instagram was filled with luxurious brunches in Malibu, poolside yoga sessions, and designer dresses that always looked flawless under the California sun. She had millions of followers, and high-end beauty and fashion brands chased after her as the ultimate symbol of the glamorous American lifestyle. Meanwhile, Noah Carter was the definition of the successful man everyone wanted to be. He was the CEO of a fast-growing tech startup, regularly featured in business magazines and spotted at exclusive networking events for LA's young millionaires. Tall, polished, always dressed in expensive tailored suits and driving a sleek black Porsche, Noah looked like he had stepped straight out of the perfect American dream. The two lived in a luxury villa with an infinity pool in Beverly Hills, spending their weekends at upscale rooftop parties overlooking downtown Los Angeles. Every photo they posted pulled in tens of thousands of likes. Their friends called them a power couple, the gold standard for wealthy young Americans. From the outside, they seemed to have it all: money, fame, love, and the kind of marriage most people only dream about. At least, that's what the world believed. Everything started to change when Madison was about 5 months pregnant. At first, she thought she would become the perfect pregnancy influencer, just like the famous moms on Instagram who still looked beautiful, glamorous, and effortlessly luxurious throughout pregnancy. But reality was nothing like what social media made it seem. Madison gained nearly 45 pounds in just a few months. The tight bodycon dresses that had once made her famous no longer fit. Stretch marks began appearing on her stomach and thighs, and she spent hours standing in front of the mirror trying to find angles that could hide the body, changing more and more every day. For many women, pregnancy is a joyful experience, but for an influencer whose career depended on her appearance, it also felt like losing control. What terrified her even more was seeing Instagram reflect all of it. Her engagement started dropping. Casual photos no longer pulled in hundreds of thousands of likes the way they used to. The beauty and fashion brands that once flooded her inbox with collaboration offers slowly stopped reaching out. In Los Angeles, where youth and beauty are practically a form of currency, Madison began feeling like she was being left behind. Meanwhile, Noah was entering the most successful phase of his career. His tech startup had just secured millions in investor funding. He was showing up more and more at networking events in downtown LA, rooftop parties filled with startup founders, and private entrepreneur gatherings in the Hollywood Hills. He was constantly surrounded by young, polished women in tight dresses, confidently talking about crypto, AI, and investing. Noah himself hadn't changed much. He still came home on time whenever he could, still asked Madison what she wanted for dinner every night, and still rested his hand on her belly before falling asleep. But Madison had changed. She started looking at herself through the eyes of someone terrified of being replaced. Every night, she lay in bed scrolling through TikTok in the dark, watching video after video about husbands cheating on their pregnant wives. The more the algorithm showed her, the more obsessed she became. And for the first time in years, Madison no longer felt like she was the most beautiful woman in Noah's life. For many women, the scariest thing isn't getting older. It's the feeling that someone else is about to take your place. At first, Madison only watched a few videos to pass the time during those sleepless nights of pregnancy. But before long, TikTok understood her fears faster than she understood them herself. All it took was watching one video about a CEO cheating with his assistant, and by the next morning, the algorithm was flooding her feed with dozens more just like it. Titles like "Husband Cheats During Pregnancy," "Rich Men Always Replace Their Wives," and "Red Flags You Ignored" appeared every time Madison opened her phone. The more she watched, the more afraid she became. And the more afraid she became, the more she kept watching. Every video featured another woman crying over a broken marriage, A successful husband leaving his wife after she gave birth, a CEO having an affair with a younger woman at work, an influencer discovering her husband had a second family. Slowly, Madison began seeing her own marriage through the lens of the internet. And in Los Angeles, where everyone lives half in reality and half in performance on social media, the line between truth and obsession became harder and harder to see. The person who fueled her fears the most was Brianna, her influencer best friend, who hosted a podcast all about toxic men and cheating scandals among LA's wealthy elite. Brianna always spoke to Madison with absolute certainty. All men cheat eventually. Then she'd laugh coldly and say, "You really think a millionaire CEO is going to stay home with a pregnant wife covered in stretch marks?" That sentence stayed stuck in Madison's head for days. She started paying attention to everything Noah did. A late-night phone call, a delayed text reply, a networking event that ran an extra hour. In her mind, every little thing became suspicious. The truth was, Noah hadn't done anything wrong. But the internet had convinced Madison that betrayal was no longer a possibility. It was only a matter of time. When you fear something long enough, you start seeing it everywhere. Things truly spiraled out of control on a Friday night. Noah had just gotten out of the shower when his phone lit up on the kitchen counter. Madison picked it up out of habit, but for the first time in years, Face ID didn't unlock it. Noah had changed his passcode. That was it. No suspicious texts, no perfume scent, no secret late-night phone calls. But in Madison's mind, it felt like an alarm siren going off in the middle of their perfect marriage. From that night on, she started living more like a detective than a wife. Madison checked the location of Noah's Porsche almost every hour. Anytime he said he was meeting investors in Santa Monica or downtown LA, she'd immediately open her phone to make sure the car was really there. She secretly read his work emails whenever Noah fell asleep on the couch after long days at work. She even started randomly video calling him late at night during business trips to Vegas or San Francisco, just to see if there was another woman somewhere behind him. But the more she checked, the more impossibly perfect everything seemed. Noah was always exactly where he said he'd be. No suspicious messages, no strange hotel receipts, no evidence of cheating whatsoever. That should have reassured Madison. Instead, it made her panic even more. Because in her mind, a man who left behind absolutely no trace only fit into one of two categories. Either he was completely faithful, or he was simply too good to get caught. And by then, Madison was no longer calm enough to believe the first possibility. Sometimes, having no evidence at all only makes a paranoid person spiral even harder. A week later, Brianna invited Madison over to her penthouse in West Hollywood. Soft house music echoed through the apartment, glowing with warm golden lights and lined with expensive champagne bottles. Madison sat curled up on the couch, dark circles under her eyes from too many sleepless nights. Brianna studied her for a long moment before finally saying one thing. "You want to know if a man's cheating? Don't ask. Test him." Madison said nothing. And that was the moment everything began slipping beyond the boundaries of a normal marriage. Brianna arranged the whole thing like it was some Hollywood reality drama. She hired Savannah, a popular Instagram model well known in LA's nightlife scene. Savannah had hundreds of thousands of followers, striking features, flawless blonde hair, and a reputation for always being seen around wealthy businessmen at upscale clubs. The plan was simple. Noah would attend a startup networking event at a luxury rooftop bar in downtown Los Angeles. Savannah would accidentally approach him, flirt with him, create physical closeness, and hidden cameras would capture his entire reaction. If Noah cheated, Madison would finally have her answer. If he passed the test, she could finally feel at peace. At least that's what she kept telling herself. That night, downtown LA glowed beneath neon lights while electronic music pulsed down from the rooftop bar at the top of the hotel. Noah arrived in his usual black suit, holding a glass of whiskey while talking with a few tech investors. Meanwhile, Madison sat inside a black SUV parked across from the hotel, her hands trembling slightly as she clutched the phone connected to the hidden cameras. Her heartbeat almost blended with the heavy bass echoing from the rooftop above. The camera kept cutting between Noah and Savannah. Savannah walked up to his table with a confident smile. She sat down a little too close, lightly touched Noah's arm, then leaned in to whisper something near his ear. Madison nearly stopped breathing. At that moment, only two possibilities existed in her mind. Either Noah would push the woman away, or their entire marriage would end that very night. On Madison's phone screen, the hidden camera footage shook slightly beneath the pounding music of the rooftop bar. Savannah moved even closer to Noah. She laughed, rested a hand on his shoulder, then lightly brushed his wrist like they'd known each other for years. Around them, champagne glasses clinked beneath warm golden lights and the familiar luxury atmosphere of LA's elite nightlife scene. Inside the SUV parked down on the street, Madison could barely breathe. She stared at the screen, waiting for the moment her perfect husband finally slipped up. Then everything happened fast. Noah immediately pulled Savannah's hand away and pushed himself up from his chair. His expression turned cold instantly, stripped of every trace of polite social charm. His voice rang loud enough for the hidden camera to capture every word clearly. "My wife is pregnant with my daughter. What kind of man do you think I am?" The entire table went silent. Savannah froze for a few seconds. Maybe she hadn't expected Noah to react that strongly. The pressure hit her all at once, and she nearly broke down crying right there in the middle of the crowded rooftop bar. Then she confessed everything. From Brianna hiring her, to the money she'd been paid, to the fact that Madison was sitting downstairs watching the entire setup through hidden cameras. Noah didn't say another word. He just stood there for a few seconds, as if all the energy had been drained out of him. Then he slowly walked to the edge of the rooftop and looked down at the street below. His eyes landed immediately on the black SUV parked across the road. Madison saw him. And for the first time in months, she realized she had gone way too far. The scariest part wasn't that Noah looked angry. It was that he barely looked angry at all. That expression wasn't the face of a husband furious over being insulted. It looked more like the face of someone too exhausted, too disappointed, and too hurt to keep fighting anymore. In the middle of a city glowing with lights and luxury music, the two of them simply stared at each other in silence. Neither of them spoke. There was nothing left to say. Sometimes love doesn't die because of betrayal. It dies because of disrespect. That night, Noah didn't come home. Madison stayed awake almost the entire night inside the silent Beverly Hills villa, constantly glancing toward the glass windows every time she heard a car passing outside. She called Noah dozens of times, but every single call went straight to voicemail. Near sunrise, she finally fell asleep on the couch. When she woke up, the first thing Madison noticed was how quiet the house felt. No sound from the coffee machine. No familiar sound of Noah answering work emails in the kitchen like he did every morning. She ran upstairs to the master bedroom and froze the moment she opened the closet. Half of it was empty. Noah's suits, watches, business luggage, all gone. Nothing remained except a cold stretch of empty space and a small note resting on the marble counter near the window. Only 4 words were written on it. "I've had enough." 3 days later, divorce papers were delivered straight to the house by his lawyer. But what truly shattered Madison wasn't just the collapse of her marriage. It was the way the internet turned her tragedy into entertainment. During an episode of her podcast about toxic relationships, Brianna casually retold the entire story with a half-joking, half-mocking tone. Within days, clips were cut, reposted, and spread across TikTok, Reddit, and Instagram. Wife hires Instagram model to loyalty test husband, destroys her own marriage instead. Millions of people started talking about Madison as if they personally knew her life. The comments flooded social media. She deserved it. If you don't trust your husband, don't get married. She ruined her own family. In Los Angeles, where people build perfect versions of themselves online, sometimes a public downfall hurts even more than the divorce itself. What hurt Madison the most after the divorce was that Noah never turned into a terrible man. He didn't disappear. He didn't cut off contact. He didn't abandon her during pregnancy the way those TikTok drama stories she used to obsess over always did. Instead, Noah continued taking care of her in the quietest ways possible. Every Monday morning, healthy meal deliveries would arrive right on time at her new house in Santa Monica. Organic juices, pregnancy-safe meals, vitamins, and custom nutrition plans prepared by a private chef. Madison didn't even need to check the sender's name to know they were from Noah. He paid every hospital bill related to the pregnancy without arguing about a single thing through the lawyers. Noah even bought a small beachside house for her and their daughter, just so she wouldn't have to keep living in the Beverly Hills villa filled with painful memories. But the thing that broke Madison's heart the most were the emails Noah sent to her doctor every week. He always asked detailed questions about the baby's condition, upcoming appointments, and everything they needed to prepare for the delivery. At one point, the doctor accidentally mentioned to Madison, "Noah reads every medical report faster than you do." That was the real pain. Noah had never abandoned his daughter. He just couldn't keep living in that marriage anymore. And slowly, Madison began realizing something she had never understood before. Love doesn't always disappear overnight. Sometimes people still love each other deeply, but they become too exhausted to keep living with constant suspicion, control, and emotional tension every single day. Inside the luxury homes of Los Angeles, people often assume marriages end because of betrayal. But sometimes what truly kills love is pain that goes unhealed for far too long. A month before her due date, Madison went to a hospital in Santa Monica for a routine checkup. That night, a light rain fell outside, the parking lot was nearly empty, and she sat alone in her car after the appointment, not wanting to return to the unbearably quiet house. That was when her phone vibrated. It was a voicemail Noah had accidentally sent while talking to his best friend through his car's Bluetooth. Madison almost deleted it. But then she heard Noah's voice on the other end, more exhausted than she had ever heard before. "I didn't leave her because I stopped loving her." There was a long silence. Then Noah spoke again, softly. "I left because I started being afraid of my own home." Madison froze. Noah explained that every time his phone buzzed, he felt anxious, worried he was about to be interrogated again. Every work meeting that ran late turned into another test. Even driving home at night no longer felt peaceful to him. For the first time in months, Madison realized that Noah had been hurting too. He wasn't some cold-hearted man who abandoned his wife like the stories she used to binge online. He was someone who had tried to endure things for too long until he became emotionally exhausted inside his own home. Madison broke down crying in the middle of the hospital parking lot. Not because Noah had left her, but because she finally understood how lonely and pressured she had made the man she loved feel. Being constantly distrusted can become a form of emotional torture, and many marriages don't end because love disappears. They end because one person becomes too exhausted to keep living in a constant state of defense every single day. The day Madison went into labor, Los Angeles was as sunny and beautiful as ever. But inside the delivery room at the Santa Monica Hospital, everything felt tense and strangely quiet. Noah still came. He showed up wearing a simple gray hoodie, his face exhausted after months of communicating almost entirely through lawyers and emails to the doctor. But the moment he heard his daughter cry for the first time, Noah immediately broke down crying too. He was the one who cut the umbilical cord. His hands trembled slightly as he held the baby for the first time. Noah stared at his daughter for a long moment, as if all the pain between him and Madison had disappeared, at least for those few short minutes. Madison lay in the hospital bed, tears streaming down her face, because for the first time in months, she saw that familiar softness in Noah's eyes again. And in that moment, she truly believed there was still a chance to save everything. Maybe they could start over. Maybe the baby would bring them back to each other. But then Noah gently placed their daughter back into Madison's arms. He leaned down, carefully adjusted the blanket around the baby, and spoke so softly his voice almost disappeared beneath the sound of the monitors in the room. "I'll always be her father." Noah paused for a few seconds. "But I can't keep being your husband." Madison couldn't say a word. She could only watch as Noah walked out of the hospital room, his figure slowly disappearing at the end of the cold white hallway. The door closed slowly behind him. And for the first time, Madison understood that some people leave not because they stop loving you, but because that love has been worn down until there's nothing left of it to survive. Trust in love is like glass. When it's been cracked too many times, the most painful part isn't the moment it finally shatters. It's the moment someone slowly loses the strength to keep holding it together. Madison didn't lose Noah because he stopped loving her, and Noah didn't leave because there was another woman. Sometimes love dies slowly. It dies through endless suspicion. It dies in the feeling of being watched, constantly defensive, and no longer at peace inside your own home. And once emotional exhaustion takes over, even the deepest love can disappear. If you made it this far, leave a comment. Does love die because of betrayal or because trust is gone? And don't forget to subscribe for more relationship psychology stories that leave the entire internet divided.